Alrighty friends, SHOKUHO is an amazing mod, but do tactics actually work, and if so, how? While the units are certainly unique compared to Bannerlord, there are still some nasty tricks that work. In the next 15 minutes, you'll learn how to dominate your enemy with terrain. I'll lead the way, follow me. Alright fellas, welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to Bannerlord. We are dedicated to getting you better at both Bannerlord and SHOKUHO, this amazing feudal era Japanese mod. Now we've been highlighting some of the best units in Bannerlord, but of course I also have to help you with tactics on how to defeat them, right? So we're going to try a very difficult challenge today, and we'll see if we can't make subtle improvements over the course of this episode to give you the recipes to win. We are going to play Tokai and some of their nasty tier 6 units. However, we're going to be fighting against Saikai with some of their incredibly powerful gunners, including this Saikai Samurai Marksman. This is probably the nastiest gunner in the game. Now, in order to defeat this kind of foe, you have to use terrain, you have to use your brain. You just can't stand there and shoot it out with them here, especially outnumbered 2-1. We'll set a baseline for this series like we do this entire series, and we will go ahead and let the sergeant fight. This will allow me to talk a little bit more about the situation here and show you how difficult it is. You can see we are way up a hill here, this sort of beautiful poppy-laden valley, and we're outnumbered 2-1 here, so this is the kind of situation, if you don't use tactics, you're going to get butchered. These nasty gunners are down there, and guns have a very long range in Bannerlord. It's not super accurate, but if you're all compacted like the ally is here, you're going to see a screen full of red. Now they're sending their horse archers down there, which is suicide, right? Guns just mow right through horse archers. They'll probably countercharge. Indeed, here comes their cavalry to trap them and countercharge them. The screen flushes red here as they get shot to pieces. Meanwhile, the ally does have its units uphill, and there's some advantages of that, right? You're shooting downhill, you generally have better line of sight, but they've decided to charge their infantry outnumbered 2-1. It's actually worse on the infantry side of things. That's not going to work. You can see, even just with a glance here, our plan is to crush them with their cavalry and sweep up the rest with a follow-up attack. Yeah, your plan is to immolate all your troops there, General, the fencer, and now he's charging with like 60 guys left, and this is inevitable, right? If you let the sergeants take control of a battle that's difficult like this, you're definitely going to lose. Let's go ahead and apply tactics to this. Now we're going to start off with what I would consider vanilla bread and butter tactics for a lot of players and show you that your standard tactic won't work here because of the power of the enemy and the situation at hand. Outnumbered 2-1 and arguably up against the best gunner in the game. This tier 6 Saikai marksman is absolutely deadly at range. I can't tell you how many times I've tried one of these custom battles where it just one-shots me from my horse. You don't even see the bullet, you're just dead all of a sudden, which is probably what it's like in real life. Now we're going to set up some very basic tactics here. This is the kind of thing that a lot of players who have some experience with Bannerlord but not a lot might do. And I'm going to show you that this is probably still not enough. Then we will get into the tactic that I would recommend for this, and a lot of you guys are probably expecting it. There's going to be a level of peekaboo ridge here, right? Reverse slope decline is going to be key here, as line of sight and the separation of their infantry and gunners is what is key to victory here. The infantry's towards the front here. The archers are shooting, right? We actually have great death spam to start this battle. Our guys are smoking the enemy infantry as they approach us. Our infantry will hold the line there. Cavalry can charge, and the horse archers can engage, right? F1, F4, and all of these are viable tactics. I'm not saying these are not good tactics here that we're using. I'm saying this is not going to be enough, right? These somewhat basic tactics won't work in a battle like this. We're simply too outgunned, quite literally outgunned. Now, so far, again, the death spam looks pretty good, right? In fact, we've got almost a 4-1 kill ratio. If we somehow maintain that this whole battle, it would work and we would be successful. But their gunners are moving up. Once they get into range, now their infantry starting to attack our horse archers and archers on the flank here, and things are going to start to go badly. The big thing, though, is those gunners, right? These guys are down here, these samurai gunners, right? Not only do they have a nasty gun, a big hand cannon or a rifle, but these guys also have good melee weapons, right? They're down here with their savage-looking hats. This guy's been shot in the head, and he doesn't give a shit. He's like, I'll kill somebody. And of course, in this example, we did give the enemy tier 3 through 6 units, just like our ally. So roughly equal troop strengths. And of course, when you're roughly equal troop strengths and you're outnumbered 2 to 1, you're not going to be able just to slug it out, right? These guys with their giant hand cannon here, kaboom, right? Your horse archers are melting. And even though, of course, we did much better than the sergeant did, this is still ultimately going to yield a loss here, right? The samurai loads his musket and he shoots your troops down. You can see from the power bar, we'll zoom out here a little bit and do a little status update. This is another loss, right? We did manage to kill about 60% of the enemies, but that still means you're taken prisoner, right? Maybe you're committing seppuku on the battlefield because you failed. Right? I'm going to teach you guys how to make the enemy kill themselves because you were successful when they expected it. This is one of the keys, right? This beautiful poppy-laden ridge up here is actually part of the beautiful tactics, right? We're going to use line of sight to prevent their gunners from attacking us until we're ready to counterpunch them. We talk about this all the time on the channel, and we're going to add a wrinkle to this because I don't even think just a straight peekaboo ridge will be enough. Maybe we'll test that. The idea behind the peekaboo ridge defense or reverse slope decline defense is actually pretty simple. You see that ridge there? If you set up too close to the enemy, they can shoot you from the valley. We want to make them come up to the top of the plateau here to shoot at us. And what that does is it forces their gunners to basically expose themselves to our archers and gunners before they can shoot. It's a highly effective tactic, and of course it's one we've covered on our YouTube channel extensively over the last years. This is devastating with regular Bannerlord, and I suspect it'll be even more devastating with Shokuho because of the fact that these gunners shoot deadly and at relatively long range. Now, if you put your cavalry right here, they're dead, right? You can see the enemy, you can see their head. Those guys are going to get shot. So you want to position your cavalry and then use the commander, get down to the ground and look like at their height level. Can you see the enemy? If not, they're probably in the right spot. Right? That's the best way to test that. Now we're going to give these guys both an infantry division. The 2nd and 3rd cavalry will both have an infantry division. The 1st will be paired with the 2nd, and the 6th over here will be behind the 3rd. This still works pretty well because what it does is it gives that line of cavalry another line of spears. Right? These infantry are intermixed with them, and they will attack units that charge them. For example, enemy cavalry. Meanwhile, oops, I botched that. We have 2 archer divisions, the 4th and the 5th. They're archer gunner divisions. It's a mix. We're going to put the 4th in a big long line behind the enemy or behind our allied lines here because the 5th is going to actually fall back to this line. The 5th is also a similar archer gunner line. We're going to use them here at the beginning to try to gain another tactical advantage. A little bit of kiting, slow down their infantry a little bit, and then get us some hopeful opportunistic kills at the beginning of this battle. It'll be a little bit of a hopscotch approach here on the right, but I will walk you through that as we do this. This may not be necessary, but I don't know if this is going to go well without that, right? Without that extra little boost of kill spam here at the beginning. Now I'll show you what we're going to do here. I've got 2 horse archer divisions, the 7th and the 8th. You could use 1, but I think 2 is more effective. That way one of them can be shooting while the other one is running back. They do shoot while they run, but it's important to remember that horse archers are a lot less accurate when they're moving. Horse archers are best used by moving them to a spot, having them shoot, and then once the enemy's closing on them, have them move again, and then have them shoot, right? They'll still shoot while they're moving, but it's better if they're standing still a lot of the time. I think that's something that a lot of players misunderstand. Now I'm just sort of circling here because I want to have the right distance and range. Now we'll set the 5th archers kind of on the ridge there in a big long spray, and then we'll put the horse archers sort of to their right, and that is because we want to support them for an inevitable attack by the enemy infantry and cavalry. These horse archers are going to help this archer division peel out of there, right? When they're pulling back to our main force, where the 4th Division and all the rest of our troops are waiting. We don't want them just being ridden down by enemy cavalry, so we're going to bring the horse archers up here as well. Horse archers are amazing for this spot because not only can they shoot and cover the archers as they're retreating, but of course they're also adding their arrows to the fire, right? The enemy troops are coming up here kind of in broken lines, and they're about to have a very rude awakening. I don't know how that was such an inept attack, but we're not here to show you combat. We're here to show you guys tactics. All right, so it's mixed a little bit with some death spam as the enemy gunners still can hit our troops here, right? We need to avoid this, though. It's okay if some of this infantry hits our lines, but we want to avoid being enveloped by it. Now, they're getting smoked. Of course, our archers are firing at point blank, but once the enemy infantry is close to your archers, peel back. Now, these horse archers are still scorching the enemy as they come up, and you can see the death spam, right? It's at least a 4 or 5 to 1 kill ratio. Now we'll start to peel them back as well. I like to move them one at a time, like I said before. That way, one of them is standing here, sort of attracting enemy attention, while the other one is getting back and into position. In fact, these horse archers, or excuse me, their infantry line is kind of mingled with some of our archers here, but I actually think this is fine. Even though we're suffering some death, that enemy is about to reach our upper gunners here, which is going to allow our 5th Division and the horse archer divisions to pull back. If the enemy keeps pursuing, they're going to be met with horrific rifle fire from our main lines here. That 4th Division, if you remembered, we positioned them back here with the infantry so that as the enemy approaches, these guys give them a volley, right? And you can see all the smoke, boom, as the enemy infantry eats a face full of musket shell. Now we'll pull the 5th back. We've got our infantry division and cavalry division kind of fighting there, but the majority of the damage here is going to be done by those gunners. On the left here, it's kind of messy. The enemy cavalry is charging, so we can kind of send our infantry and cavalry in here to kind of make a mess. You can see my combat skills with Shokuho need a lot of work. I just got this mod about a week ago, but like I said, a lot of the tactics that work for Bannerlord apply to Shokuho. Now here's the other concept, necessary part of this this tactic. Their gunners are starting to approach, right? They're kind of in an oblong, strange line. Half of their guys can't shoot, but these guys are starting to get to the stage where it's dangerous for our troops, and you can actually tell that from the death spam, right? They're starting to light us up here with musket fire. So we're going to charge, right? We've destroyed most of their infantry and cavalry. The rest of their cavalry is here kind of getting butchered. We don't want to just stand here toe-to-toe with their musket guys because there will be serious consequences to that, right? They will just pound us with their guns. And it's important to remember, too, your guys do run out of ammo, especially archers. So I see some guys actually just standing there with their sword. You want to be wary of the fact that at some point or other in a battle like this, you're going to have attrition of ammo. You're simply going to run out of ammo, at which point you're going to be in trouble. So what are we going to do about it, right? What I do have right now is a lot of horse archers and cavalry. We're going to charge, right? But we're going to do this intelligently. We're not going to do it just a frontal charge here. All these gunners would destroy our cavalry, right? There are famous battles, of course, during this era where that's exactly what happened. Well, we're going to charge with our gunners, infantry, and whatever's left of the cavalry, the heavy cavalry, and we're going to slam the enemy from the side with horse archers, right? We're going to bring all these horse archers. They'll still shoot a little bit, but what I really want them for is their disrupting and their trampling ability, right? You can see the gunners are moving up there towards the center. We're now going to charge with those divisions and drag these horse archer divisions and a cavalry division in through the enemy ranks, right? It's a simultaneous movement. The reason this works is all our troops rush up. I get stood up, speared, and shot to death, but that's okay. We've got the RTS mod rolling. If this is you, right, and you want to have your guys keep running. Now, if you don't have the RTS mod, you need to go get it, right? If you have Shokuho, you should clearly have the RTS mod, right? If you can run mods, I don't know why you wouldn't use the RTS mod. Now, so that little 2-second rant aside, now our job is simple. Keep these gunners occupied, right? You see how many cavalry are following me with all their horo, these shields on the back? Our job is simple. Or it's not simple, but it's essential. We must keep these samurai gunners moving. You see, they're trying to scramble to new positions to shoot because they're getting trampled by cavalry. The death spam looks good because our guys are just trampling through their ranks. The rest of the troops now arrive. The infantry that was left, the archers and the gunners that are left, a lot of them are actually in melee. That's good, right? We like that because all of our forces are now concentrated on an enemy that's sort of scattered and broken up. Their samurai, instead of shooting, And they're trying to shoot. A few guys are trying to shoot, but they're met with our infantry, met with our gunners, and trampled by our cavalry. And this battle is over. I can't believe they haven't routed yet, actually. But there's no way they can win this situation. They're outnumbered, and indeed, there they go. All right, so again, this is a battle. The sergeant got completely demolished. Basic tactics worked okay, but the enemy still had 40%, give or take, of their troops left. We used this advanced tactic, and the enemy is destroyed here, right? In fact, let's embarrass this guy here before this battle is over. A couple, 3 kicks here, and then we will do him the honor of removing his head, right? Down he goes, and hopefully this tactic is useful for you fellas out there trying to navigate the very hazardous world of Shokuho. Very difficult game. The tactics that work for Bannerlord don't always apply, but we will do our best job in the upcoming episodes to show you the ones that do. Clearly, this is a successful strategy. Almost a 3-to-1 kill ratio, despite the fact that we're the ones outnumbered. All right, now I'm cognizant that that's a lot of movement for some players, right? That is just outside the realm of their capability to do that. So let's give you guys a very basic tactic here. I also want to show you essentially what happens with the old F1, F3, right? This is a favorite tactic amongst guys. Some people think if you can just use raw aggression on gunners and archers and stuff like that, it'll work. That is true when you're with equal numbers, maybe, or in a situation where you have better troops, some kind of an advantage. Here, it's going to have disastrous results, right? I haven't played this out. I haven't done this before I made this episode. I already know this is going to fail. And of course, some of you guys are shaking your head like, F1, F3, man. I'm not here on the channel to watch F1, F3. We're still occasionally doing this as a bit of a sales pitch to say you need to use tactics, right? If you're using F1, F3, you might as well dispute science or Sun Tzu or other advanced military tactics, right? You're basically living in the Stone Age. The screen is flushing red here. I can do a little bit of combat myself just to kind of see if my disrupting here would help. Now, admittedly, if you did just drag your cavalry through here the whole time, maybe we'd be able to kill an additional 50 or 100 troops, because just like the previous example, we could keep all these gunners occupied. I mean, you can see my character here, and this is just one of the custom battle characters, is wrecking shop, right? He's cutting down dudes, he's interrupting them, and inevitably he's going to get shot off his horse. But he's doing a pretty good job of sort of menacing their archers. Now, incidentally, if you insist on F1, F3, please at least F1, F2 a cav division while you're doing that. That way, of course, that whole time you're causing carnage to their gunners and archers. And it's not going to work. It's not only not going to work, but it's really bad, right? You're barely getting a 1-to-1 kill ratio here, and of course we're outnumbered 2-to-1. That's simply not going to work. So I want to give you guys a static tactic. In other words, a tactic where you set up everything before the battle starts that I think will be pretty effective against this force. We're going to use a peekaboo ridge. In other words, we're going to use the top of that ridge, but I want to give you basically what I would consider more easy mode tactics, where you don't have to do anything, right? If you like riding around on a horse, and the last couple examples, especially that advanced tactic that we showed you, was too much for you, I want to give you one that you can perform as long as you can just monkey see, monkey do, right? I'm essentially going to show you all the different positions, lay it out in front of you with the RTS mod, and then we will play it and see what it does. You can see here, F1, F3, the enemy still has almost 600 troops. Now, there's a tiny chance this works better than the advanced tactics I showed you, which will be funny, right? All that fancy movement, and it doesn't yield any benefit over this, although I still suspect that tactic I showed you is superior. Just a lot of hours of Bannerlord has proven to me over and over again that the combination of a good setup tactically and the movement, intelligent movement of troops after battle starts is superior to other options. All right, we're going to make this relatively simple here. 2 squares, the 1st and 6th Division, and they will be squared the entire battle, and infantry will not be attacking. Again, I want to make this as simple as possible, so I'm going to set these units into place, and I'm not going to do any commands, right? We'll basically just have these guys stand there. Now, eventually, you'll want to charge. It's not like you have no command the whole battle, but at least the first minute or two of this example, we're just going to stand here and hold the lines and let our gunners and horse archers work. So 4th and 5th and big long lines like that, that way they're ensured line of sight. The cavalry is stretched out in a big long shield wall. Even though they don't have shields, it'll still work. And then on the flank over here, horse archers. Now let's give them a cav division just to protect them a little bit. If they get charged by cavalry, that 3rd division will intercept and slow down a lot of the cavalry. I think that'll be modestly effective. The squares, you kind of want to position the squares out front. That way the infantry aggroes to the squares and doesn't reach your archer lines. It doesn't reach your gunners, right? If they're close, that square will get mobbed, and some of those infantrymen will then mob your gunners as well. So I like 50 to 80 yards for your squares. Oops, your squares away from your gunners here, right? Again, you want to use that peekaboo ridge, because if the enemy can see these guys, your squares are just going to get insta-killed by the enemy gunners. So we're observing that these guys are protected by that ridge. And now we just hit start and hold our breath, right? Because like I said, I'm not going to actually fight. I'm going to give you this little overhead perspective. We're not pulling the wool over your eyes here, right? There's no tricks. I'm not trying to cheat and trick all the guys on YouTube with cheat codes and reduced player damage or something like that. We get that accusation on the channel sometimes. And at this stage, I consider it a badge of honor, because if we're doing so well with tactics in our gameplay that people insist we're cheating, that just shows you how devastating these tactics are. And you, with your Shokuho mod, as long as you have the same circumstances, the same settings, should experience the same success, right? The whole purpose of these is not to show you how badass I am. I don't give a fuck. I'm not trying to get married. I'm trying to help you fellas. And I think if you replicate this, you'll experience similar levels of success. Now, so far, it looks amazing, right? The death spam is entirely green as the enemy infantry gets scorched on the Peekaboo Ridge here. They're now attacking the squares, or what's left of their infantry lines. This is amazing. It's approaching a 30-to-1 kill ratio. However, their cavalry is coming, right? That's the part I'm worried about. If you don't have moving tactics, here they come. They're starting to eat up our archer and gunner lines, and that's the big problem. Right? Because your other units aren't supporting them, your gunners are just getting trampled, interrupted, etc. The horse archers are slowly getting torn up there, and the enemy gunners have reached the line. So a combination of the enemy cavalry sort of interrupting our gunners here, and their gunners shooting, and our cavalry sort of sitting there like dipshits, is starting to yield bad results. However, this still looks like a viable tactic for you fellas, right? We're close to winning this battle, and maybe if you were setting up something like this and had a couple of simple movements, it might have succeeded. Although ultimately this looked like it's going to lose. So what would I do with this exact same tactic here to try to win? I would just pair it with what we did in the previous battle where I showed you running with cavalry through their archer ranks, through their gunner ranks. That might have worked. We might have been able to win this battle with that just small amount of micromanaging. In other words, the exact same setup there, only once their gunners got close to the edge of the ridge and started shooting, dragged that big cavalry division and or horse archers right through their ranks. And you might have had success, or we might have had success here. Ultimately, this is going to be a loss, but certainly better than all the other tactics, except that advanced one that we showed you in the middle there. All right, I'm very happy with the results of this. I think it's highly demonstrative of how important tactics are, how worthless F1, F3, and the Sergeant are, and how valuable tactics really are for Shokuho. We're going to continue to wander the realms of Shokuho, the different maps. I'm going to look at the units to try to help you fellas win, so you want to subscribe, of course, if you want to see more. Leave any criticisms, complaints, etc. And with all that said, I will see you friends next time.